Firstly, thank you all for joining us in this virtual MenoMeetup today. It's great to see you, so many of you here online and ready to talk about the menopause. For those of you who joined the last MenoMeetup face-to-face, we just have some guidelines that might be familiar with you. So we just ask you to be respectful and inclusive and mindful that not everyone will want to share about the menopause, but are here to learn. So on a similar vein, there's no obligation to share. If you're just here to listen and find out more, that's absolutely fine. But please do feel free to ask any questions or make any comments in the chat function. And also we ask you to raise your hand, which we'll go over in a minute, just so we can manage this virtual MenoMeetup. And most importantly, please do enjoy yourself. So today we have Maryon Stewart to talk to us about 5 tried and tested ways to manage the menopause, and also take some of your questions and provide some answers. So please bear with us while this is our first MenoMeetup, and we'd like to manage the question and answer session in this way. So if you click on the options under participants, sorry, I think it's under the chat, you'll be able to see the raise hand function. So if you'd like to ask a question, please raise your hand and we'll call on you to ask the question. If you don't want to come on screen to ask your question, you can also submit it in the chat, either publicly so that everyone can see the question, or privately to me or Julie Whitaker, who is also the host, and we'll bring your questions together and ask them for you. So that's it from me today, and I will hand over to Maryon.
Right, so I'm just going to share my screen first of all and get the presentation. That's not it. That's not it either. Give me a second, it seems to have vanished.
The wonders of modern technology, eh?
Yeah, it was, here it is. It was open, there you go. Right, can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Right. So before we get started, I'd just like to welcome you all, and I'm going to be taking you on a bit of a journey today, and hopefully you'll have a lot more information about menopause, the stage you're at, how you manage it, and if nothing else, you're going to have a lot of hope in your heart that you're going to feel better in the not too distant future. Before we get stuck in though, I'd just like to get us all nice and grounded and in the space. I know there's a lot going on in all of our lives at the moment, and it's tricky to be in the moment. So I thought it would be a good idea if we just closed our eyes and did a little bit of deep breathing and just get yourself into a nice space so that you're ready to receive this information. So if you just close your eyes and maybe roll your shoulders, if you can feel your feet on the floor, pop them against the floor and do a few nice deep breaths. And as you breathe in, just hold the breath for a few seconds before you let it out again. And so you're going to breathe in some relaxing air, hold it, and then just let it go. And then if you can just feel your feet on the floor and a little energy coming up from the ground, from the earth, just bring it up through your feet and into your legs, and just let that energy flow through you up into your trunk, into your chest, down your arms, you can wiggle your fingers, and into your face and your head. And just keep breathing and get a picture in your mind, if you can picture something good that happened, a time when you were really happy and you felt really good. And if you can't picture it, just try and get the sense of the feeling of how that felt for you. And just hold that in your mind's eye for a few seconds and just smile to yourself. That was a really good time, and the goal is that you're going to be feeling as good as that again in the not too distant future. So take a little snapshot of that so you can come back to that picture anytime you like. When you're feeling a bit rough and anxious, you can look at that and smile. Take another deep breath or two. And then you can roll your shoulders, wiggle your fingers, open your eyes, and come back into the room. And here we are together. So thank you for coming. I have been working with women going through menopause for more years than I care to remember, more than 28 years. And before that, I was helping women with PMS. And my PMS program helped 94% of women be symptom-free within 4 months. And my menopause program helped 91% of women be symptom-free within 5 months. And a few years ago, I made some Facebook live films, and within 12 weeks, over 1 million women saw those films. And as a result of that, I was, as you can imagine, completely inundated with suffering. And so I decided to help as many women as I could by putting together all the tools that we used in the 5-month program and make them accessible in a number of ways. So I've been providing lots of free content. I've made about 100 weekly wisdom films. We have newsletter. We do tea time sessions, all sorts of things. And we also have a 6-week course that helps women as well as our one-to-one. But everything we do is based on published medical research. And I wanted to give you a snapshot today about, first of all, what's going on in your body, and so that you come to understand that really all you need at this phase in your life is a midlife refuel. It's just a transition. It's nothing else. It's not a serious medical condition. It's not something you're going to be stuck with forever. It's something that you can get through with adequate knowledge and information and come out the end of it probably feeling better than you can remember, because we go downhill so slowly. Lots of us have babies and breastfeed and live life in the fast lane and maybe have too much alcohol, or we're dieters, and by the time we get to our mid-40s, we're really running on empty. We go into what I call economy mode, and we have low levels of nutrients, and it's impossible to feel well. You're a bit like a bucket with a hole in it. And then you've got the added whammy of having low levels of estrogen because your ovaries stop functioning, and all hell breaks loose. And it does feel pretty bad for lots of women. Some women get away and they don't suffer. About 20% of women don't have any symptoms, but the rest of us have symptoms to varying degrees. And some women are completely crippled by their menopause, and they think they've got Alzheimer's, dementia, they feel like a shadow of their former selves. Sometimes they're housebound and they can't even get out because they're too having panic attacks and palpitations. It can be really, really extreme. So no matter how extremely you're suffering, you can overcome your symptoms. So this is not just for people who are suffering mildly, it's for anyone who's suffering at all. So if you recognize that you've got symptoms, or even if some of you have said you're not there yet, but actually perimenopause lasts for up to 8 years, and the average age of menopause is 51, so you're probably all at least perimenopausal, if nothing else. So menopause can affect your life virtually. And some of the common symptoms, obviously apart from hot flushes and night sweats, which I used to think were the most common, but when we started doing surveys of thousands of women, we found that fatigue and anxiety and probably brain fog were even worse, and probably insomnia followed on from that. So, and lots of people are scared, they don't want to talk about it, they're maybe in denial, they certainly don't want to talk about it in the workplace. And it becomes very difficult. We know that lots of women think of leaving the workplace unnecessarily, and I'm going to be talking more about that as we go through. So my program came about because we ran the PMS program in the early days, which was all based on published medical research. And then in 1990, I read a paper in the British Medical Journal about a study that was done in Australia where they gave women some red clover, some soy and flax seeds, and they found that they were able to bring about similar changes in the lining of the vagina as they expected to see with women taking hormone replacement therapy. And so my little ears pricked up, and I thought that sounds really interesting. And the following year, there was another paper published in another medical journal called The Lancet. So they're two pretty prestigious journals. And so at that point, I decided that I would tweak my PMS program and turn it into a menopause program. And that was where it all began. And it's basically a 5-pronged approach. So we're looking at diet, getting nutrients into an optimum range. We're also teaching women how to consume naturally occurring estrogen, because we have receptor sites in our cells that require estrogen. And I'm going to be explaining to you why you need to fill those and what the downside is if you don't. Then we use science-based supplements. So these are supplements that have been through clinical trials, because a lot of supplements haven't, and a lot of supplements don't even contain what they say on the label. And then we need to do some exercise according to our fitness level and our stress level, and do some guided meditation or relaxation or whatever it is to chill. And that has been shown to help to bring down flushes as well. So I'm going to be focusing on those different things. So that's the diet. Mother Nature is so clever that she's provided us with all these naturally occurring estrogens. And there are lots of really good supplements depending on your symptom set, but we help to select supplements that are going to work for each individual person, and then work out an exercise and relaxation program. So I've been around a long time. As I said, I've written 28 books now. In fact, I've got to edit my 28th book tomorrow. It's my first American book, which is very exciting. And I used to go on TV in the morning with Dr. Hilary Jones and Mark Porter answering questions. I've done lots of broadcasting on radio and TV, and I had my own TV show for 3.5 years. So I've been helping women, and just to share a couple of success stories, there is a lovely little film that you can have the link to afterwards and watch. We had made last year with 10 other women that I've been working with. But this was a lady who sticks in my mind because she came to see me. She was twice her size that she is in that picture. She I think she'd gone up to a size 22, and her bosoms were so large. I remember she told me, in fact, there's a little video of her talking to me on YouTube, because she said that she had her bosoms dragged her down so much that she had to keep stopping, going to a cafe to sit down to actually put them on the table because it was hurting her back so much. And she was a teacher, and she was very depressed, and so she got signed off work and just was really losing her grip on life. She was quite suicidal. So I worked with her for few months. We got her symptoms under control, and then I carried on working with her for 18 months, and she got back. Actually, she was a size 10 in the end, and we had to fatten her up a bit because she looked so scrawny. So that was her. And then this one I just wanted to tell you about, because she was a postmistress, and she came to me. In fact, she didn't even come for menopause. She came because she was scared, because her fingers were crippled with what she thought had been told was arthritis, and she couldn't pick up her pen to do her work. So it was really bothering her, and she was starting to have hot flushes and night sweats as well. So we kind of gave her the 5,000-mile service. And the interesting thing was that not only did she get over her menopause symptoms, she got her joint function back completely, so she had no aches and pains. And she was feeling so well that she started doing, I think it was Sarok dancing. And so she was out doing Sarok dancing 3 times a week with her husband, and was really reborn. So she went from this kind of scared person who thought she was past it and old and crippled, to being somebody who is out there having really good fun again. And so I feel that every single woman on this planet has the right to adequate knowledge to help them to get through menopause. And that's our mission. And so there is something for everybody, no matter how you feel, what you're suffering, or even if you're just preparing for menopause. Because a lot of my PMS patients from years ago just came back, and we tweaked what they were doing, and they didn't even go down the black hole of menopause because they were already in fairly good shape. So the earlier that you get yourself sorted out, the better, and the easier it will be. And there are lots and lots of symptoms, and if you can just go down this list, and some poor women have all of them. Some women just have what I call the physical symptoms. So things like joint aches and pains, the hot flushes and the night sweats, and really just feeling old before your time. Other people have the more mental symptoms, things like panic attacks, palpitations. They think they're going crazy, and they get depressed and mood swings. Very often women get bloating and weight gain. They tend to gain a lot of weight around the middle. And even if you've been slim before, your metabolism slows down, and so it becomes difficult, unless you get the balance right in your body, to maintain your nice shape. So, and that can be depressing all by itself. So a lot of women, I remember my grandmother and her sisters, they all had these funny dresses that were all baggy and coloured lilac hair or whatever it was in those days. And they look like old ladies. But now when you're in your 40s and 50s, we don't feel old at all, or we don't need to feel old, and we can definitely turn back our biological clock. Science very strongly shows that. So you may not want to get into your bikini like these celebrities, but you could if you wanted to, because by the time you finished, you will be back in really great shape. And if that works for you, you can definitely get your sexy back. So people that have lost their libido and have got dry vagina and all those really personal things that we don't like to talk about, all of that gets better too. So the nightmare of menopause begins when our ovaries stop functioning. So when we're born as baby girls, we've got millions, literally millions of eggs, which I always found amazing that a tiny little baby could have so many eggs. But as you get older, the number of eggs falls. So probably from 35 onwards, that you're on the decline. And by the time you get into your 40s, you've got very few eggs left. And at the time of the menopause, which is 51, you have what we call estrogen withdrawal, because you have no estrogen in your body and you've got empty estrogen receptor sites. So I just thought I'd share a couple of little studies with you looking at what is menopause, the different aspects of it, because very often people don't understand. Some people have never even heard of perimenopause, but it is that 8 years leading up to menopause. And it's a time when you still got your periods, but you may feel that you've got PMS more days of the month. And you may wonder what's going on. Are you getting a bit hot sometimes, a bit more moody? And you definitely feel a bit more hormonal, but you're just not sure what's going on. And then when you get right to perimenopause, so that was early menopause, when you get to perimenopause, you still have your periods, but you can definitely have marked hot flushes and night sweats, maybe mood swings, maybe you're feeling anxious. Sometimes before a flush, you get this awful aura that comes and makes you feel weird, and then you get the flush. And sometimes women just burst into tears for no apparent reason, and that is very much associated with perimenopause. Now, menopause is, believe it or not, and again, this shocked me when I first found out, is only one day in your life, and that is the anniversary of your last period. So that's 12 months. And in fact, one of our tea time sessions last week, one of the women, it was the day of her 12-month anniversary, and it's the first time I've ever so we all kind of sang happy menopause to her, because it's literally one day, and the next day you're postmenopausal, and most people don't realize that, and you're going to be postmenopausal for the rest of your life, and you need to do something in order to make yourself feel better, because when you've got no estrogen, you are much more likely to, or you're much more predisposed to get things like osteoporosis, the bone thinning disease, heart disease and dementia. And you can prevent those. The science shows that you can prevent those too. So let's talk about a few myths first of all and bust those. So one size fits all, that there's a magic pill. Well, sadly, we wish that was the case, but it isn't like that at all. There are so many aspects to menopause. As you saw in the chat, some of you are perimenopausal, some are around the time of menopause or just past menopause. Some of you are seriously past menopause. Some people have a surgical menopause if you've had hysterectomy, and you can also have the different symptoms, as I mentioned. So it is different for every single woman. The pharmaceutical companies would like us to believe that everyone should take hormone replacement therapy. And in fact, that was a trend some years ago, but now, because there's been lots of research to show that there are some downsides to HRT, a lot of women choose not to take it. In our latest survey on 1,100 women, we found that 41% of the women had been prescribed HRT, and of those, 14% didn't take it because they were too scared. And out of the ones who did, 61% had significant side effects and had to come off it. And we also found that 37% of the women had been given antidepressants, and 85% of them didn't feel that was appropriate. So there's a lot of prescribing going on, but all the symptoms relating to menopause can be managed naturally. So if you're on HRT, I wouldn't rush to come off it anytime soon, because you can get withdrawal symptoms. You need to wean off it if you want to. You don't have to. And if you are thinking that you don't want to take HRT, you don't have to take it, you can manage naturally. So that's what we do. We manage exclusively naturally. And then finally, that menopause won't last very long and then you'll be fine. Well, that would be nice. But actually, when you get empty estrogen receptor sites and you've got low levels of nutrients, you're never going to feel well again unless you correct that, unless you get yourself back into good shape. And that's why it's really important. And then you become more predisposed to those things like heart disease, osteoporosis, and dementia. So we need to make sure that we've got all the tools in our tool basket, and we can either help ourselves or get some help to get through these symptoms. So I'm going to take each of the aspects of the program and talk about it in a little bit more detail so that you've got a better idea. So we have a nutritional download, which you're all very welcome to download. We'll send you the link to it. And on this slide, I know it's a little bit small, but those little blue signs, like Post-it notes, are telling us what Mother Nature is trying to communicate in terms of nutritional deficiencies. And you'll see in the download that you've got all the symptoms like cracking at the side of your mouth, red patches at the side of your nose, dry skin, greasy skin, split hair not growing very well anymore, ridgy nails, brittle nails, all sorts of things that happen to us. But Mother Nature is trying to tell us what we're short of in terms of nutrients. But because we're not educated at any time in our lives, we have no clue. So that message from her falls on deaf ears. And as we get these nutrients, and the research now, we did 5 studies in the early days on women of childbearing age, and we found that very often women have got low levels of important nutrients, things like magnesium, B vitamins, calcium, zinc, iron, essential fatty acids, and all of those are necessary for normal brain chemistry and normal hormone function. And it gets worse as you get older. So you really do need to learn how to meet your needs and get yourself back into good shape. So if you go through the little nutritional download, you'll be able to identify things you may be short of, and then you need to find foods that are rich in those important nutrients. So the first part of our program is we are taking out of the diet foods that may impede the absorption of good nutrients, and we're adding in foods that are very nutrient dense and foods that contain lots of naturally occurring estrogen. In Asian countries, believe it or not, until they went onto a Western diet, they didn't even have a term for menopause in their language. But then the researchers followed a group of women who went from Japan to America, and they changed their diet, and before too long, they were experiencing menopause. So it is really interesting how it affects different cultures. Now, phytoestrogens are really important. They're Mother Nature's gift to us, the naturally occurring estrogen, and phyto just means plant. So it's plant-based estrogen, and the receptor sites in our cells don't stay full for very long. So when they're empty and you haven't got any estrogen in there anymore, you need to top up little and often. And you can fool your brain into thinking you've got normal circulating estrogen. It's like a little miracle. And what the hot flushes are the brain trying to kickstart the ovaries back into function, because it doesn't get the fact that your ovaries aren't supposed to be working anymore. Because if you think about it, 100 years ago, we weren't living much past 50. And so it didn't really matter. But now when 40-something represents halfway for many of us, it is really important to get ourselves in good shape. And when you've got empty estrogen receptor sites, you are likely to have brain fog and probably anxiety and hot flushes and night sweats and aches and pains and all of those things, because estrogen is so important. It's important for so many aspects of our health, including our joint health and our energy and our brain function. So it is important to take naturally occurring estrogen little and often into your diet. Supplements, we have, there are a range of supplements that have been through clinical trials. I feel really, really strongly that women need to get proper information about these, because when you go into a high street shop or you go online and you choose something that's in a pretty packet, it just isn't necessarily going to be what's in the actual pill, what they say on the label. So for example, we did lots of clinical trials years ago on different supplements, as well as having trawled through all the literature, world literature, to select the supplements that are science-based. But one of the companies that approached us was a company with a phytoestrogen-rich pill that was supposed to be derived from soy, and according to them contained 39 milligrams of isoflavones per pill. And I was asking for the research to substantiating substantiate it. And at that point, I was just off to a conference in America on phytoestrogens, and I was talking to two of the researchers I knew, saying that it's a bit tricky, all these new supplements on the market, and I haven't really got a clue which one is the best one. And they smiled at each other and said, if you can keep this confidential, we'll share a medical paper with you that we've just finished and we're going to have published in a few months' time. And when I looked at it, they had looked at 40 different phytoestrogen-rich supplements, and only 2 of them contain what they said on the label, amazingly. And the one that was the company were trying to get us to endorse, the one that was supposed to have 39 milligrams, this particular analysis found that it contained 1 milligram. And it made me feel really angry, because I felt that women were being duped. Here we are again, you know, we're not given proper information, and now we're being palmed off with supplements that are supposed to help us, but they're not helping us, and so we're wasting our money. So I think it's really important, again, that we choose the supplements that are right for our symptom set and that have been through properly conducted clinical trials, and as well as going through the trials to show that they're effective, so they'll help with your symptoms. They also look at, are they safe? You know, are they going to have an adverse effect on the lining of your uterus or your breasts, as they're worried about HRT, for example. So the supplements that we use have been through stringent trials, and they have been shown to be safe as well as effective. So next part of the program is getting physical. And even if you haven't been physical for a while, it's important to get yourself active again, because for lots of reasons, really. One of them is that it helps to increase your metabolism, so it will stop you gaining weight around the middle, and it will help you release endorphins, those lovely feel-good hormones, so that you'll feel well again. And also it's just a nice thing to do, to be active, because it helps to oxygenate your brain, so it helps to prevent brain fog and makes you feel good generally. So I wouldn't push yourself, especially if you're feeling stressed at this particular point in time, as so many of us are, because if you've got high cortisol, which is the stress hormone, the last thing you want to do is massive aerobic exercise. So rather do short bursts, do some dancing to your favorite music, or I've got a hula hoop, whatever works for you. There's loads of things on YouTube that you can do. Or if you are a big exerciser, then just make sure that you're doing probably at least 5 sessions of exercise a week to the point of breathlessness. And then the last part of the program is the formal relaxation. And believe it or not, the research shows that if you do formal relaxation every day, and that doesn't mean watching telly, it means doing something like guided meditation, or we have lovely apps that you can use that take you into a really deep relaxed state and bring you out again if you can't meditate. And this kind of activity has been shown to reduce hot flushes and night sweats by between 50 and 60%. But it also helps to rewire our brain and to bring down our cortisol levels. And it helps to calm us so that our gut becomes more calm and functions normally. And it helps if we're feeling stressed and anxious to calm that too. And even if you're busy and you're working from home and feeling a bit overloaded, if you go and take yourself off in the afternoon or whenever you can manage it for 20 minutes or half an hour, you will help to restore your energy. So we use an app called Phytoestrogens, which has been put together by a group of neuroscientists, and it has a sleep app and a nap app, and it takes you into a really deep, relaxed state and then brings you out again. And it's free to start with, and then after that there is a fee, an annual fee, but we have a 50% discount code if anyone's interested in that. There are other apps as well. There's Calm and Serenity. There are various things that you can try. So just to recap, how we approach this is making sure that you get your nutrients into an optimum range. So that's like a 5,000-mile service. And if you think about it, if you were a car and you hadn't had a service for a long time and you hadn't had an oil change, you wouldn't be functioning too well. And as women, we tend to put ourselves last. We get so busy with our families, our work, keeping house, looking after our partner, and normally we come last. And so when we get to this stage in our lives, it comes as a bit of a rude shock because no one warns us and we don't really know where to begin. So making sure you've got a good diet, that you're not skipping meals. If you're still having your period, then in your premenstrual week, your calorie requirement goes up by about 500 calories a day. So you have a physiological need for more good nutrients to make the transition from one cycle to another. It's worth bearing that in mind. So you might need a wholesome snack mid-morning and mid-afternoon. Ideally, you don't want to be craving lots of chocolate. We know that 80% of women do, especially premenstrually, and some women do eat lots and lots of chocolate. I wrote a book all about that and have done lots of research on that. And we do help women to overcome cravings within the space of probably about 6 weeks. Usually the cravings are related to low levels of chromium, magnesium, and B vitamins, which are in a very short supply at this stage in your life. And once you fix that and eat well, keep your blood glucose level on an even keel, the cravings go away. So consuming naturally occurring estrogen, little and often, those receptor sites are hungry for estrogen, so you need to be doing that, and making sure you've got the right supplements for your symptoms, taking some exercise and some time out for formal relaxation. So I want to tell you just a little bit more about phytoestrogens and why you need them. I thought I had another slide here, but I haven't, so I'm just going to tell you anyway. In your cells, you've got these little receptor sites, and during your childbearing years, when you've got circulating estrogen, the estrogen pops into those receptor sites and seals off the space, and that keeps everything ticking over normally if you're in good nutritional shape. So it means that your hormones will function normally, your skin, your hair and your nails will glow, and you'll feel like a normal woman. However, when you have empty estrogen receptor sites, your brain is still hungry for them to be filled to keep your body functioning normally. And so not only does it send these thermal surges through your body, which you know as hot flushes and night sweats, but also it's hunting for environmental estrogen. Any old estrogen will do. So if you're not taking hormone replacement therapy, the only thing left to you, if you're not consuming naturally occurring estrogen, is environmental estrogen. And that environmental estrogen comes from pesticides and pollution, waste material, plastic, and it's toxic. And in fact, it's associated with an increased risk of breast cancer. So the last thing you want is empty estrogen receptor sites. You want to fill them, and they don't stay full for very long. They don't stay full for more than probably 5 or 6 hours. So on our programs, we help women to consume naturally occurring estrogen little and often, so that they have maybe something for breakfast, and maybe some soy milk, some flax seeds, and lunchtime they can maybe have some edamame beans, maybe soy yogurt in the afternoon, or whatever it is. But we work out for each individual person what they need to be consuming so that they fill the estrogen receptor sites. What happens if you had imagine you've got an egg and spoon race, and there's HRT in one lane, environmental estrogen, the harmful xenoestrogens in another lane, and Mother Nature's estrogen in the other. The way it works is that Mother Nature's estrogen wins the race. She jumps into the cell and seals off the space. So that means that the harmful estrogen can't get in. So by helping yourself and consuming naturally occurring estrogen, you're protecting yourself as well. And also the research very strongly shows that those phytoestrogens help to prevent heart disease, dementia, and osteoporosis. They help to keep the factory open that makes the bone cells, for example. And they help to keep us in really good shape. So it is important. Taking supplements, certainly in the short term, to help to get you over the symptoms is important, and you may need to take some supplements in the longer term, depending on what's going on in your body. Sometimes people get achy or a bit brain foggy or whatever it is, so they may need to take some supplements going forward. However, if you are a domestic goddess and you love being in the kitchen and you want to do it all through your diet in the longer term, you probably can do that as well. So it's really a question of each individual. If you hate cooking, you don't have to cook either. You can do fast options, but healthy options. So it isn't hard. And the program does seem a bit daunting at first to make all these changes, but actually once you start to get the gains in the first few weeks and you develop these new habits, they become really enjoyable, and also a little of what you fancy does you good in the long term. So this isn't a life sentence, it's just something you do in the short term to get yourself back onto an even keel. So that's what the program consists of. So as I said in the beginning, we have all sorts of things for people to dip into. If you go onto YouTube, you'll see there are dozens and dozens of films I've made, just short films, weekly wisdom films on different aspects of menopause and different symptoms. We've got our newsletter. We have a tea time now as well, which we've been doing since COVID-19 hit, which is a video session like this, where women come 3 times a week. Twice a week is tea time, once is in an evening, and they're recorded as well. You're welcome to join those. We talk about different subjects, everything from just connecting with each other. We've been doing stress and insomnia, decluttering and guided meditation. Sometimes we talk about how we're dealing with our hair and our nails, and just what kind of things we can do for other people. Just, you know, it's just a way of connecting, because a lot of women have felt very isolated and scared, frankly. So that's what we've been doing. We have a 14-day self-help program for people that want to help themselves, as well as our 6-week program. And people that are really, and anybody who wants to have a chat, if you just get in touch with Julie, we'll give you the contact details. She'll book you in, and we can talk you through and just explain, really, after knowing a bit more about you, which approach is probably best for you. But you're welcome to come to tea time. And we've also got the nutritional download, which each of you will get, so you can have a good look at that and check out your nutrient levels. But please don't sit there suffering and feeling like this is doom and gloom for the rest of your life, because it's far from it. You just need to spend a few months nurturing yourself. And when you come out the end of it, you'll be absolutely amazed. And when you see the little film that we're going to share with you, you'll see one of the case stories in there is Professor Jo Brewis. And she was one of the authors of the government report on menopause in the workplace, which was published in 2017. And I met her at a menopause conference at the beginning of last year. And she confided in me that she thought she had early Alzheimer's because her parents both had it. And she was really scared. She had brain fog. She was anxious. She had constipation, spots on her, or acne on her face that she'd never had before. And she was really seriously thinking she might have to leave the workplace because she couldn't retain her thoughts. And so I invited her to come on our program, and she did. And within 6 weeks, she had mental clarity back again. Her spots are gone. She was feeling so much better. And a year and a bit later, she's now, a few months ago, she was made head of department at her university. And she's really blossomed. She's turbocharged and very happy, because, and I'm happy too, because she's doing such valuable work in this field, that at least she's now able to still be really productive. So just to give you hope that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and the M word is doesn't have to be anything, have any bad connotations. It can be the start of a whole new chapter in your life. You can embrace it and either reinvent yourself and do something that you've always wanted to do, or you can carry on with your career and keep yourself on track, or go off and start doing whole new things in life and have fun. So that's what this is all about. So that's it from my presentation. There's the contact details, and I'm sure that you'll be able to have access to this presentation. So you can email me, or you can just email Julie at maryonstewart.com. So Julie will put that in the chat so that you've got that. So let's stop sharing my screen, and I'm here now to answer your questions.
So that's great. Thank you, Maryon. And I hope everyone found that useful.